Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share something that's been highly requested and honestly one of the most important topics for IMGs. How to prepare a CV that gets noticed by the recruiters and the hiring managers in Australia. I recently had an opportunity to speak directly to one of the recruiters and I tried to understand what makes them stop and notice an application. Because for every single position, hospitals receive hundreds and sometimes thousands of applications. So it's an absolutely difficult job to shortlist a few CVs out of that sea of applications. And honestly, most CVs get rejected within seconds, not because the doctor isn't qualified, but because the CV does not communicate it right. Think of your CV as your personal seller, your personal salesperson. It speaks for you even before you get a chance to. So your CV should be presenting you right. It should be reflecting your personality. So in this video, I'll share tips and insights that can help you make your CV stand out rather than get lost in a sea of thousands of applications. Let's get right into it. Now, before you even start writing, it's really important to understand which format to use. A lot of people get confused about this. There are a few templates floating around. For example, some states have their own formats, like Queensland, it has their own CV template, but honestly, it's not mandatory to use theirs. In my opinion, I think the safest and the smartest approach is to use the AHPRA CV format. It is the standard format and is accepted across Australia. It includes all the sections that they want to see, for example, your personal details, your work experience, your current and your previous clinical appointments, references, registrations, clinical gaps, and so on. The official document is there on the AHPRA website, and you can see here on the screen as well. These headings can help you structure your CV, and I think it's really smart to just go with this format. Now, let's move on to the formatting and the layout. This might sound basic, but I cannot stress enough how much it matters. A recruiter spends just a few seconds scanning your CV, so it should look clean, consistent, and professional at the first glance. Keep it simple, no fancy colors, no multiple fonts. Stick to something minimal and readable. For example, Calibri or Arial, font size 10 to 11. Please make sure you're using the same font throughout the CV and the same font size. There shouldn't be any discrepancies, of course, except for the headings and the name. That should be big and bold. And then use tables to organize your sections neatly. Now, I know a lot of people are against it because they think it's too over the top, but I personally feel like tables are such an amazing way to present your information, and it comes in really handy, especially when you're putting your qualifications and your work experience and specifically the dates. It looks really structured, easy to understand, and neat. So I personally think tables should be the way to present your information in the CV. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to your personal preference. So if you're comfortable using the tables, I think it's a really good way to structure your CV. Please double check, and actually triple check, your spellings and grammar. Even a small spelling mistake can quickly eliminate your CV because it reflects your lack of attention to detail, which is a really important skill as a doctor. So make sure you're triple checking all the spelling mistakes and grammatical errors. There shouldn't be any. Remember, your CV isn't supposed to be pretty, it's supposed to be clear and understandable. Alright, now that your CV looks clean and professional, let's talk about something that can clearly make it stand out, using the keywords from the job description. So for every single job that you apply, read the job description very carefully. Every job advertisement is slightly different, and recruiters are looking for the evidence that you actually fit the role. That means your CV should actually mirror the qualities and the skills that they're asking for. So when you're describing your roles and responsibilities in your work experience, make sure that you're using keywords from the job description to explain your responsibilities. This small adjustment can make a huge difference between getting an interview or being overlooked. Next up, let's talk about the work experience. This is the heart of your CV as a doctor. First off, make sure that you're listing the experience in the reverse chronological order, which means the most recent comes first. For every job that you're mentioning, include the name of the hospital, address, and the contact details. Make sure that it's verifiable, because when you apply for the registration with AHPRA, sometimes they do ask for your experience certificate, and sometimes they even call the hospitals to verify your experience, so you cannot lie there. High chances of getting caught. For every work experience that you are mentioning, always write the number of hours worked per week, whether it was a full-time position or a part-time position. And instead of writing just a vague sentence like worked in a hospital, always write worked in a 3,500 or 1,000 bed tertiary referral care facility. Always use terms like high volume, high acuity hospital, acute admissions, acute medical and surgical admissions. So use words like these so that the recruiter immediately understands your responsibilities and the scope of practice. And then again, just like I mentioned before as well, when you are writing your roles and responsibilities for each job, use the keywords from the job description. For example, if the job description states that the candidate should be able to clearly and accurately document or able to show empathy with the patients, use those exact keywords while you're writing your roles and responsibilities for each job. That will bring a huge difference, trust me. Now, let's talk about the scores. A lot of people are always confused whether to add the English scores and the AMC scores or not. The answer is yes. 100% add your scores. I recently spoke to one of the recruiters directly about this, and she was very honest. So sometimes the CVs are very similar, they are all equally good, and then it comes down to your English scores and sometimes the AMC scores as well. Now, if you have AMC clinical, that adds immense weightage. That is like a cherry on the top. But the thing is that very few people have it. So 100% add your PTE or IELTS or OET or whatever. Do add your English scores, because you never know. If it comes down to your scores, and you might as well qualify for an interview just because of that. So without any hesitation, include your scores clearly in the CV. It's just giving all the necessary information to the recruiter to fairly assess your application. Alright, now on to the awards and achievements or your extracurricular activities. Now, this is a chance for you to shine through and show a bit of your personality. So if you were a sportsman on a national level, or if you were an actor, or if you won the best resident or the best intern award, do mention those. Also, you can always mention your publications, your researches, your poster presentations. I think that really puts an amazing impact, because it shows that you are doing something out of the hospital as well. But the key here is to remember that your CV should be maximum 3 to 4 pages. So you're not really putting all the clutter and not really adding all the certificates you've ever gotten in your whole life, but you're just staying relevant, just basically showing a bit of your personality, not adding all the unnecessary information and overloading the CV with irrelevant stuff, because at the end of the day, it's not adding value and it's useless. Now let's cover the clinical gaps, something that many IMGs stress about. Any gap longer than 3 months is supposed to be explained briefly in your CV. Be honest and brief. For example, if you were sick, or you were traveling, or you were taking care of a family member, or you were preparing for an exam, or moving countries, migrating to another country, you could just simply clearly state that, and that should be it. But don't worry too much about it, as long as you are fulfilling the recency of practice requirements by AHPRA, you should be fine. According to AHPRA, you have recency of practice if you have 1 month of full-time experience in the last 1 year, or 3 months of full-time experience in the last 3 years. So gaps are normal and expected, and honestly just makes you a bit more human. So just mentioning the gaps clearly and briefly shows you're honest and professional. Okay, now let's talk about references. This is very important and often overlooked. In your CV, make sure that you're adding at least 2 to 3 referees. Do add their contact details, their email address, their contact number. It's very common in Australia that the hospitals email your referee, sometimes even before selecting you for an interview. So make sure that you're letting the referee know that you're listing him or her as your referee, and make sure that they know you, they've worked with you, and above everything, they are kind and nice and will give you a nice reference, because that is really important. Finally, one last and a very important tip. A lot of IMGs miss it, and I personally think it's really important. Always get your CV reviewed by someone. Ask your friends or your family members or your colleagues or your seniors, and even your consultants, sometimes they're helpful as well. So make sure that someone is really reviewing your CV, because a second pair of eyes can sometimes catch things that you completely ignored in the first place. So I think 100% get your CV reviewed by someone. Remember, your CV is your first impression, so make it clear, honest, and professional. Double check, take your time, keep reviewing, and make sure that your CV is your best representation and is reflecting your personality. If your CV stands out, you'll get an interview, and if you stand out in your interview, you will get a job. It's as simple as that, so make sure you're following all the steps. Thank you so much for watching. That's it for today. I hope this was a helpful video and it will help you structure your CV accordingly. I am thinking of making a CV template or a CV toolkit for IMGs. Let me know if that is something you'd be interested in. Stay tuned and subscribe for more information and more guidance around AMC exams and the AMC pathway. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves.